I talked to other church planners, right? And I'm like, what's one thing you did differently than, what you do? And everybody gave me the same answer. Oh, I would have started more missional. So in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not going to recruit nobody.
Yeah.
I'm going to just hit the block. Like, we're going to find unbelievers. We're going to find whoever.
You got to tell the story, Doc.
Well, we're back. We're back in the Connect for one. We're back doing a podcast for two. I'm blessed. Y'all don't know this. We've already been talking for like 2 hours already.
For sure.
Maybe even more than 2 hours. So this is going to be a great conversation.
I think so.
We've already talked about wrestling.
That's right.
YouTube channels.
Desk setups, 2020.
Desk setups. How many desks do you have? Just one?
2.
2 desks. Okay.
I have a guest desk.
What?
Yeah, so like
it's in your guest bedroom?
Nah, so I have an office at home.
Yeah.
And there's 2 desks. There's my desk.
Okay.
And then there's like a guest desk.
I dig it.
So like sometimes my son works there, sometimes my wife works there.
Yeah.
I got a ministry intern at Crosspoint or Sending Church. He'll come work there for the day.
Okay, so you're talking about at your office.
At my home office.
At your home office?
This is my home office.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Well, I don't have any other office. It's just
I thought
my office is at home.
Anyway, all right. Well, before we get any further into random conversation, which is what we're pretty good at, y'all know that Tell the Story Doc started as a podcast that was supposed to kind of document my walk in church planting. Like the big idea was, I don't even know if you know this, but the big idea was I wanted to document everything that was happening in church planting as it was happening. Because what tends to happen is guys, they go through whatever they're going through and then they get past it and then they tell you the story 10 years later. And now it's a little bit revisionist history, right? So they're like, man, when it's just you and your wife and blah, 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 like just pray. It's like, no, I don't want to hear your take on it now. Like I want to hear the day you were angry. So
tell me about that struggle.
I wanted it to be like a vlog cast. Like I was going to do a vlog and with every vlog, it would be a podcast episode. But I just suck at vlogging. Like I'm really bad at it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really bad.
Byron, there's not many things you're bad at, though.
I'm bad at vlogging. And the reason why is because...
Are you talking about vlogging like today's day 93 of...
Maybe a little bit of that, but just like collecting the moments. Like I'm really bad at. Like I love video editing, I love shooting, but I'm really bad at like doing it for myself. So like I'm not the guy who can walk around with a camera like, hey, blah, blah, blah.
I'm here.
We got a ministry event today. Let me let y'all know. Like, and no shade to the guy. Okay. I got some friends who do that. No shade to y'all, but what kept happening was like, and we're extroverts, so kind of. You're an extrovert?
My Myers-Briggs is like a 52-48.
Okay, yeah. So you're an extrovert. But we so enjoy the moments that we don't think about like pulling a camera out. It's just like I heard
I feel that.
Have you watched the new Chris Rock?
His new stand-up special?
Yeah.
I saw pieces of it.
It's not good, but
that's what I heard.
He says in there a line that was great. He was like, best friends never take photos together.
That's a fact.
And I was like, oh, this is real.
That's the realest thing I've ever heard.
He's like,
I'm trying to think right now. Like, I don't got pictures with any of my friends.
You're too busy having fun.
In the moment.
Just like really like close couples.
Dang, that's good.
Usually don't take pictures together because they're too busy experiencing the moment. So it was the same thing with me.
My wife and I don't have barely any pictures.
Yeah, we always got to run back to like old photos like all the time for every occasion, which is crazy.
That's real. That's good.
But that's how I felt about like vlogging. So we ended up having to throw away that model, and the model that we're moving to now is I want to hear the stories of other church planters as they are planting, right? So again, I hate sitting around and listening to pastors and church planters talk about stuff and it's shrouded in like, hey, just believe and pray and blah, blah, blah. Like, nah, there are days where we're frustrated, we're mad. There are days where it's like, yo, only 17 people were at church. You preach at our church, it was like 15 people there that day. It was just a bad day. It was, and I don't believe in hiding that. I think actually, as guys, there's a church planter on YouTube right now who may see this video in the future, or maybe they're seeing it now, and that guy should hear like the truth about church planting.
Right.
So that's why we have Tell the Story Doc. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because we've had a few conversations over time. You're right here in Florida. Again, you've preached here. You've seen the Connect as we've been developing it. You just saw the church. And you've seen a lot of our story, but I want to hear more about your story. I want to document it, and I want other people to hear it. So do we do introductions here? I don't know. Justin Sarah.
What's up? That's me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, like, where do I start?
Well, typically I like to hear people's story. You don't have to talk about like when you were born or nothing, but like, unless that's a huge part of your
New
story.
Jersey, April 23rd, 1991.
I didn't know you were born in New Jersey.
Yeah, bro. Jersey all day.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. You're like the second guest from New Jersey.
That's what's up. 201. Holla at me.
Okay. But yeah, like just start wherever you feel like God has started to craft your story in a particular way.
So I'm gonna go way back, but I won't be thorough. I think there's points. So I grew up in a very traditional Latin church experience, Pentecostal, but it was a bigger church. It was maybe like 500-600 people. And the way I try to tell it is like in the church and in the home, it was a lot about what you can do rather than who you are as a person. And so it became very performance based. But outside, like on the street with my friends at school, that was about who I was as a person.
Yeah.
The music I listened to shaped me. The movies I watched, the things I experienced. Those things taught me more about becoming a person than my home or my church did.
Yeah.
All of that was more celebratory of like what you could do, what you bring to the table, how much gifting you have. And so I learned very quickly as a teenager to have two worlds and not let them touch.
Wow.
And sometimes they would, and like it would frustrate me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be judged one way or the other.
Yeah.
Outside, I didn't want to be judged as like a church boy. And then in the church, I didn't want to be judged as like this sinner.
Yeah.
When like I was both in both places.
Which is super common, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say my level of deception was not average though. It was above average level of deception.
You're a good liar.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could get away with what I wanted to get.
Bro, I keep finding out that we're more and more alike through our conversation.
I love that though. I don't feel alone. But yeah, so the reason why I share that is because when I became 18 and I graduated from high school, there became like this duality in me of like, am I going to run towards the church or am I going to run towards the world? And so I decided I'm going to run to the church. And so I went to a Christian, very popular Christian college, Christian university here in Florida, Central Florida. And I won't shout them out, but you know who you are. And I lasted a semester.
I just want you to know I'm going to drop their logo right there.
Southeastern University.
Yeah.
I lasted a semester before I got kicked out.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that became real difficult for me. And so I had to wrestle with, do I want to keep doing this? Or am I just made for the world?
Yeah.
And so I ran the other way completely. You know we in the hood, bro.
Yeah. This happens like every
love
episode.
this. The way I like to tell people is like, I like to be hood adjacent.
Okay.
Like I don't want it on me, but I want to touch it.
That's kind of how I am. I mean, I work here. I'm here like 60% of the day, and then I go home.
Yeah. So like people come to my crib. It's a sidetrack, but it's good content.
Yeah.
People come to my crib and they be like, "Oh, it's nice. You got a gated community," and I'm like, "I hope there's no children listening." But I'm like, "Nah, I found like a used condom on the floor the other day. Like, this is not This is not all that you think it is.
Yeah,
bro.
my daughter definitely is asking me what a condom is now.
Bro, you should have said something.
Nah, it's all good. But she watches the podcast. This is good for her.
Yeah,
You got to learn.
I mean, it's reckless, but that's how I like it. I want to touch it. I don't want it on me.
Yeah.
But I want to touch it. I want to hear the music, but I don't want the music like in my house.
I got you.
Anyway, so that made me run to the world completely. I ended up having to do a 30-day sentence in county jail. It wasn't nothing crazy. Driving with a suspended license. But I was sentenced to 30 days. Mm-hmm. And it was there that the Lord like really captivated me. Started a Bible study in the jail. Came out, wasn't different.
Wait. Hold on.
What's up?
You only had 30 days to do, and you started a Bible study within that 30 days?
So I started the Bible study the last 2 weeks I was there. So when
What?
I first, yeah.
You're a real church planner.
I guess.
Like you're like Paul in the prison. Like, let's sing some hymns.
But like the Lord was faithful. So peep this. I was in county jail. You don't pick where you sleep.
Nah.
Over there, right? Like you get there, you do 2 days solitary, right? Because they're processing your paperwork and all that. You get your physical, and then they throw you in Gen Pop. And then when you get to Gen Pop, they're just like, you in room 241.
Yeah.
And so like I'm walking upstairs and I turn the corner and I'm dreading this, bro. I'm like, bro, I want to do 30 days and get out, bro. Like I don't want no problems. I opened the door, dog. 3 guys I played football with in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Dog, they looked at me. They was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What are you doing?" Nah, I know why you here.
Yeah.
But God was good to me, man. Because we had an existing relationship, so I was allowed space to reflect on what God was gonna do with me.
Yeah.
In that place.
Yeah.
And God did a lot. Started reading my Bible for the first time. I sort of like made this deal with God where it was like, I'm gonna forget everything I know. I'm gonna read this at face value. I'm gonna just take it as it is. And at the end of the day, what's gonna matter is what I feel about it.
Wow.
I'm gonna take it as true. And this is what I think growing up in church did to me. Because growing up in the church I grew up in, and you probably experienced this as well, like you could play with anything in the world, you can't play with God's word.
That's real.
Right? And so like for me, it ain't really matter how you live. You could be whatever you want, do whatever you want, but you ain't gonna play with God's word.
Right.
And so like that's how I came to the text. I was like, all right, God, this thing is true. I don't know how I feel about it. So we're gonna figure that out.
So let me stop you there, because I think when I saw a shift happen in my life, it's when I questioned whether it was true or not.
Really?
Yeah. Now I wanted it to be true. But I wasn't convinced that it was.
Yeah.
But you're saying like, no. I know it's true. So God conformed me, like changed me, you know?
Well, I didn't even think God changed me. The way I even talked to myself was like, I'm either gonna read this and be convinced, or I'm gonna read this and know
this is not for me.
This is who God is. I don't want anything to do with it.
Okay, all right, I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how it was for me. I trusted everyone who told me this thing was true.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not gonna dictate my life.
So even when I jumped in, when I say I was questioning whether it was true, what I should have said was I was questioning whether it was true for me. Right.
That's
so
good,
like
that's good.
So like what you're saying is similar to what you're saying is like, yo, either I'm gonna read this and be like I know that I know that I know, and this is real and I'm gonna live by it, or I'm gonna read this and be like, nah, this ain't it.
Right.
I need to find something else, or not find something else. Just do me.
Yeah. So I opened the book of Romans.
Oh wow.
It's the worst place.
How did you end up there?
Because I remember when I was in Southeastern, I had a New Testament survey class, and my New Testament survey professor started our first day of the class. He said, if you were on an island by yourself,
oh gosh,
and you could only take one book of the Bible with you,
Romans,
what book would you take? And I said Romans, not because I ever read Romans before, but because I knew what Romans 1:16 was. So if he challenged me, I could say that was my favorite verse.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's because all that music I was listening to. You know, I was listening to, when I was in the church, I was listening to like Cross Movement, and Cray and Flame and all that. And so like 116 was a thing. And so I was like, well, I could say this, and if he presses me on it, I could just say that's my favorite verse. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll start here. Mm-hmm. And so I ordered a pen, I ordered a pencil and paper, a notepad from Commissary, and I just sat down at that little metal table, and I just went verse by verse of like, this is what I think it means. I didn't know I was exegeting the text, but that's what the boy was doing. And
it's like, what does this mean?
I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm just trying to figure it out. This is true. I'm trying to figure out what it means. So I got to Romans 8, and I felt hard, bro. Like, I wept, like almost like a betrayal. I was like, how come nobody told me Jesus was this good? Like, all my life I've been in church. How come I never, ever experienced Jesus like this? That he loved me that much, that while I was his enemy, that he would die for me. Nobody ever told me I was his enemy.
Really?
Nobody ever told me. I felt like this. You know, I can't recall every day, but at least I felt like, oh, that is what my sin did. And I was egregious. I was stinky, boy. And God was like, that's mine.
Yeah.
That was like, it was like the first time I ever heard it. So then I got to Romans 9, and I threw the Bible up against the wall. And I was like, oh, God's a bully.
I love that. I never heard anybody say it like that.
I was like, God's a bully. And I didn't read for a week. And I remember trying to go to sleep, and I couldn't sleep. So one of my boys told me, he said, what makes time go faster in here is if you sleep during the day and stay awake at night. So I was trying to do that. And man, I just couldn't sleep. And then I just felt the Lord saying, like, you almost done with the book. Just finish it. And so I got to Romans 10, and then that's when it happened. Like,
wow.
I just felt everything different, completely different. So I started Bible study on Ephesians in the jail right after that. Right after I finished Romans, I was telling my boys, like, yo, I'm different, bro. Like, I don't know what happened to me. And they were like, bro, that's jail. That's
everybody changes.
Everybody get changes. They're like, you either go crazy or you get saner.
Right.
But I was like, nah, bro, I feel like it's different. So they're like, all right, let's hear about it. So we started a little Bible study in the jail and read through Ephesians, I think it was. And I got out, didn't have any money, married my wife in my youth pastor's living room, and saved all the money we did have to get a house to rent, and then started my walk-in ministry. And I did everything you could do. I was an intern. I was a youth pastor. Like everything you could do, bro.
Yeah.
I did it. I was just hungry. But then there was a point where I was like, all right, God needs people in the secular space. Like, I need to be just a good Christian in the secular space. And so I did that for a little bit, and I just felt so incomplete. I just felt like I was not doing what I was made to do. So I thought going back to school would satisfy that, and it didn't. I'm not a very good student. And you know, my wife had 2 more babies, and so like that was also harder.
Yeah.
And so I went to my church at the time, and I'm like, I just feel this tug to pastor, like truly pastor. I feel like I've experienced it before, but I want to do it in a new lens. Like,
and you say pastor, we kind of had this conversation off camera, but like pastoring and preaching,
right,
in our context sometimes is synonymous, but I don't feel like that's what you're saying, right?
No. I felt like when I meant pastor, I meant be like a leader of people.
Yeah.
Like that God was calling me to be for the people in a way that was different than how I was already being with the people. Because at the time I was in a community group, you know, I had some young brothers I was talking to and discipling and things like that. And, you know, we was reading the text, book studies, things like that. But it just felt like the calling, like this is what I got to do vocationally. This is what I got to do in my life, you know? And they confirmed it, and they're like, man, we want to train you up to do that. And so they kept their word. We did that. And then long story short, I did a couple residencies, one in Kansas City, one here in Florida. and then we replanted a church during COVID, and that was hard. That was real hard. We knew our back was up against the wall. Starting to do that, we prayed for God to do a thing. It was like really my first go at being a lead guy, but all the ingredients were there for it not to have longevity.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question real quick. 2 questions actually. You did a residency in Kansas City. I don't think we met in Kansas City, did we?
No, you.
That's
you
how I
went to
found
Kansas
out
City
about
when
you.
I was on vacation.
Yeah, so that's how I found out about you, but we didn't actually meet there. I always mix that up because I was sitting here earlier today like, yo, I know we met.
Yeah.
But
So
we
I
didn't.
friended you because I friended you anyway. I found you. They were like, oh, look up Byron Cogman.
Yeah.
And I found you and I started following you everywhere because they were saying you was doing this.
In Daytona.
And you was recruiting.
Exactly.
And I was trying to get up out of there.
Oh, yeah?
yeah.
If I would have had some money, I would have definitely like threw a bag at you, but I had zero money.
Kansas City.
Yeah,
yeah. I thank God for those.
I think I thought the same about you. Like they was like, yo, we got a resident and he's like from Florida. I was like, oh, he's from Florida? All right, I can figure something out. And then the second question is, and you don't have to give a lot of details if you don't want, but like the first church plant in a sense, or like revitalization, would you consider that a fail?
No.
Okay.
No. And I think culturally in the church planting world, we have to stop doing this. Like when you start fundraising, maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but I'll loop back around to your question. When you start fundraising, you'll hear a lot of people talk about like, and it's a lot of big churches doing this kind of talk. Like, we're funding plants and like they're closing in 10 months or a year or 2 years and blah, blah, blah. And so like they're failures. And it's like, what? Oh, you just gonna sip tea while you over there? All right, so you do.
Hey.
And it's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
Was the gospel preached?
Yeah.
Were lives changed?
Right.
Did, even if it was 10 people there, did they behold Jesus more beautifully than they did before?
Right.
Who cares how much money you threw at
Yeah.
them? Are we not storing treasures in heaven?
Yeah, man.
I'm just saying, like,
I'm with you.
this whole idea that like, yeah, anyway. So that's why I don't think it was a failure, because we prayed for God to do something in Palm Bay, and God did. He just didn't do it as long as we asked him to.
God did. Hey, we need a Khaled jar right there. That was perfect.
Did. You know what I mean? Facts. Like, he just didn't do it as long as we asked him to.
Yeah.
And guess what?
That's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. I think we have this understanding or this idea that we are creating, like in church planting, we're creating these things that will last hundreds and hundreds of years. And there's like very little evidence for that in scripture or history.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. So like, I don't understand why anyone would consider a church plant a failure if they were faithful to the gospel, faithful to Jesus, and serve people well. You know,
I just want to say that Ephesus isn't standing, but Corinth is.
And he's not talking about Corinth, Mississippi either. I'm just saying.
No.
Shout out to the people in Corinth, Mississippi.
Yeah, shout out. It's hard living in Mississippi.
Yeah.
I
got family in Corinth, by the way.
For real? That's a real place.
It's a real place. It's right outside
I trusted you.
It's not far from Memphis. It's not far from Memphis.
I feel like Mississippi, one of those states, like, I can't be there, bro. That's hard.
It's actually a lot better than what most people think. Yeah.
I trust you on that.
You can own, like, all right, both of us live in Central Florida. To own a house here, you have to be a millionaire almost.
That's a fact. You need them,
You
them 6 figures.
can move to Mississippi and for $250,000, you could buy like a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, sitting on a half an acre.
Yeah, but see, the way my skin tone's set up, am I gonna be?
It's a lot of black people in Mississippi. Now, I don't know if it's a lot of like, you say Spanish. I don't say Spanish, but I don't know if it's a lot of like Puerto Rican people.
I would say like Latin people.
Yeah. Well, okay. Like there's some there, but I don't know if there's a lot.
All right, man.
But anyway,
Mississippi there's like a few states on, just above us.
I feel like so here. So I'm a Southern boy, right? I'm a Southern boy, and
this is probably why.
I feel like people's
You
perception
have
of
better
the
context than I do.
people's perception of the South
ignorant.
is not exactly what it is. Like, if it were up to me, I would live in the South all of my life, all the time. Like Mississippi, Alabama, some parts of Georgia. Some of it's a little sketch, but there are way more racist people in Florida than there are in like Mississippi and Alabama.
Bro, what?
I promise you. Like
right.
I've encountered way more racism in Florida than I have in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina.
You should try Kansas City.
I didn't say Kansas City for a reason, but
you should try it.
I like Kansas City for 3-day stretches. But
that's about a good amount.
Yeah, so
Joe's barbecue and
but man, I don't want to move away from the Palm Bay thing too quickly unless you want to. Like,
no, I'm good.
What would you say outside of COVID? Because COVID's a thing.
Yeah.
Outside of COVID, like, what are the things that were red flags that as a young planter who really just wants to get after it, like, what are those red flags that you kind of like just zoom past and now you can kind of see like what they were trying to show you?
Yeah. So I'm going to just preface this with saying, if I shed anybody in a bad light, wasn't my intention. Because there were other components at play here that weren't just me, my calling, my vision, the mission that I felt I needed to do in that place, that God was leading me and my family to do in that place. There were other contributing factors at play there. And so I'm good with everyone. We have a great relationship, healthy relationship. It took a while, but we on the other side of it. But what's real is real, and so I'm gonna tell you like it is. So one of the things, hindsight is always 20/20.
Right.
One of the things was, I don't think our transition from the plant that was Bayfront Village Church to becoming Crosspoint Coast Palm Bay was a healthy succession. I think it was a little bit rushed. I think the lead guy who was there, he was in a bad spot and he needed to get out. I think it was wisdom for him to see that he needed to get out. He's a brilliant dude. He's our strongest supporter for New City Fellowship right now. I love this brother, but he's a very optimistic dude, and I think a lot of the succession hope and faith for what it could become was driven by his optimism. And so for him, it was like, there's money in the bank, there's 2 staff, there's 60 households.
We should be good.
Yeah. And for support raise, like, I'll find you. I remember him saying specifically, like, I'll find you an extra 30,000. Like, I got it, And so in my mind, knowing I'm not a fundraiser, I'm not good with money, I'm not, like, that whole space is new to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to lean on this. I'm going to lean on this brother's word. And it didn't turn out that way. We got there my first Sunday, January 3rd, was the first Sunday there, 2021. And there was 4 households. I think the most we ever had was maybe 10 households.
Okay.
And then that ended up dropping off. People weren't really clear. And when I did exit interviews and reasons why, like, people really weren't clear from his end what this was going to become.
Yeah.
I think for him, he was just in his optimism saying, no, it's going to be good. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. But it still wasn't enough for people to be like, but what is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is this changing? Is Bayfront as we know it changing? You know what I mean?
In which it is, right? Like,
it was completely. Bayfront was very loose.
We have to be, I think clarity is very important in transition. Like, it's probably the most important thing in transition.
100%.
Because people bring their assumptions. No matter how many times you say things, people are going to bring their assumptions.
Right.
So you have to constantly, like, affirm, or not really affirm, but confirm what it is you're doing, so that they can see the contrast between 100%. What they believe is happening and what's actually happening. So
I think that was one component. The other component was we were planting a church that was going to be part of an existing church. So think sister church, daughter church.
Right.
And so this was going to be Crosspoint Coast Palm Bay. there was already 2 other Crosspoint coasts. One was a plant, one was the mother church.
Okay.
Through all of this, the sending church. And I don't think on their end they had counted the cost appropriately of what it was going to take to have 2 church plants running at the same time.
That's real.
And so, you know, I think they had things happen internally, and their optimism and their faith, you know, was sort of kind of playing a role in this. And so, you know, they were just like, man, we could get out of this if we just raise some money. Like, you know, but it was like, yeah, but you don't have, like, you need money to plant a church.
Yeah.
In this model.
Yeah.
I mean, you need money, period. But like, even more so when you want to have one church, many congregations, like those other congregations got to have bank to support that church plant as it struggles, because it's an infant.
Yeah.
And what do infants need? It needs time, attention. It needs diapers and milk and all of these things.
I got an infant right now, so that's very sensitive subject for me. I don't have money.
I feel you.
I'm poor.
Yeah, but the Lord provides.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
But I get what you're saying, though. You know, resources are important, but you also need other layers of support that are 100%. Not just financial.
Exactly.
And to go back to that clarity thing, so that's a huge deal. You know, I feel like just in our conversations over the last, it's been like a year and a half, almost.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more than that. But I would say in our conversations, I can see that you have kind of shifted just where your focus is. One, because obviously you are doing a new project now, and we'll move to that in a second. But 2, because I think as time goes on, you probably have grown to understand that situation a little bit better, right?
For sure.
So we talked, I think at the end of that.
Yeah,
were you still kind of?
I think the first time we were talking, like for real, we knew the closure was.
Yeah. And then I think God already. I think deep down inside you already knew that there was something else. Like, you know, you needed to take some time, and man, my voice. You needed to take some time, but you knew that there was something deep down, and that's where you are now, man. So, man, I'm a huge fan of church planting. I love church planting. I don't know if I'll ever get to a point where I feel like coaching guys or anything like that, but I just love to hear like the details about what's going on, what God has put in your heart, how you're moving, how you're reaching people. And man, you're not too far from us at this point, playing back home in a sense.
Yeah. So when we closed Crosspoint, Coast Palm Bay, you know, I mean, it's talking with our mentors and our pastors and our network that we were planting through. Man, they were just like, why are you not planting at home? And I was like, I had no good reasons. All my reasons were like super vain. Like, I wanted to be in a city. I wanted to be somewhere popping. Like, I wanted to be outside of here. And then like super low key, I didn't want to be in my hometown because like, man, I misbehaved most of my life.
So wait. Before you go too far, where is home?
So I would say home is like South Orlando, North Kissimmee.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where I spent formative years. You know, I would say most of my life has been down here now. You know what I mean?
I dig it.
Yeah. And so when at the core, those reasons are truly selfish and vain.
Oh, yeah.
And really put you at the center of a reason why you wouldn't do something God's inviting you to do. And so I just had to reconcile within myself and confess, like, man, I don't want to do this thing, God, because I'm being selfish. Like, I'm being selfish. I'm being conceited. Like, my ego is through the roof. Like, who am I, honestly, to think that, like, somebody's going to show up one day and be like, well, I remember, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, maybe. Yeah. But, like, to not do this thing is it's just not a good enough reason, man. It's real sinful. Reason and real selfish reason to not do it. So I kind of turned a corner and was like, all right, man, God, if this is what you want to do, we got a little saying in my home. We say, the Lord's will, the Lord's bill. So I was like, all right, God, if this is what you want. If you want us to do this, you're gonna have to move.
You gotta take care of it.
Yeah. And And that's what he's been doing, man. That's what he's been doing. So we came home. We knew we weren't really going to have, I talked to other church planners, right? And I'm like, what's one thing you did differently than, what you do? And everybody gave me the same answer. I would have started more missional. So in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not going to recruit nobody.
Yeah.
I'm going to just hit the block. Like, we're going to find unbelievers. We're going to find whoever. And we had some existing relationships in the city. Of course, I spent most of my life out here. And, so the first group that came to a Bible study was 2 other couples and significantly de-churched. At one point, church was everything in their life and then became increasingly nothing. And then that group just started to grow and grow but everybody in the same sort of spiritual state.
Yeah.
We didn't really get transplants. We had like 2 transplant couples. Everybody else was just, man, I used to go to church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I used to kind of like love that and kind of got burned. And so like we kind of asked, it was like, man, what stopped you from engaging with the church? And so the first thing was trauma. They were either spiritually manipulated, felt used for their gifts, but not shepherded. Kind of just felt sucked, zapped dry, you know?
Yeah.
And then the second thing was the church's response to current events. So how the church responded to George Floyd, how the church responded to COVID, and how the church responded to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You have your opinion on that, but for a lot of people that was divisive.
Right.
And so they were just saying like, man, the churches that we were around and how they interacted in those spaces just didn't feel like a safe place for us, didn't feel like and we were already hurt. We were already like, and so that just became the reason they pulled out. So,
I hate to interrupt you because I feel like you're on a great path right now, but it just hit me as we were talking. If we truly believe that those who are called of Jesus or called by Jesus to be a part of the body, and that it's only by faith that people become a part of God's body, Jesus's body, then in a sense, those who have like left the church are like lost sheep in a sense, right?
Yeah.
But we very rarely treat like that as like mission, like true missional work,
bro.
Like instead we come and we're like, well, these people should be a part of a church. They should be showing up. Like it's a fault in their discipleship that they're not showing up to be a part of the family of God. As the family of God gathers, because they're still a part of the family of God. Like, but why isn't it that we treat it like, hey, like we should send missionaries out to those people who have fallen away from the church, even if we believe that those reasons might be petty or we don't get offended at the same things they may get offended at. Like this is a mission field.
We have a young sister who comes to our group who the reason why she stopped going to church was because she was sexually abused in the church that she was in, and she reported it.
Yeah.
And it was covered up.
Wow.
Like, if we're going to look at the de-churched and be like, complainers, this, and I've sat in conferences where that has been the the nature of the way they talk about these things, as if the de-church is lesser than the unchurched or the non-churched. And it's just like, man, I don't want to, I can't deal with that. And again, I got skin in the game. Like a lot of the people that are coming to our group are de-church. So I feel very strongly about that, but
it's personal.
Oh, 100%. Like I get upset about it, they need to be recaptured by God just like anybody else.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what we started. And so we started this Bible study. And then, man, we just started from zero, like no money, nothing. I went to Chase Bank to open a business account. Brother looked at me and was like, how much you trying to deposit? And I was
like, deposit? No, I'm here to open.
Yeah. I was like, how long do I have to put money in this thing before it closes? He's like, you got some time. It's not going to stop your fees, but you got some time.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's what we're going to do. So we literally started with nothing, bro. Like YouTube taught me how to write articles of incorporation.
Yeah.
Taught me how to do the 501c3 process, like bookkeeping, payroll. Ended up hiring other people to do that, but like that, I just had to figure it out. You know, how to write a mission, vision, not how to write it, but like how to take what was already in me and kinda like, you know, make it tangible and legible. And so, man, I took a deep dive. I was like, all right, we're gonna figure this out. And so, that's what we're doing, man. We got a Bible study every Friday. We're hoping to launch a soft launch January 7th of 2024. Yeah, bro.
It just hit me that 2024 is less than a year away. Like
we're 9 months out.
When you said 2024, the first thing I thought was like, oh, that's a long time.
Bro, we're 9 months out. Man.
But you're only 9 months out.
And like church planting is hard, bro. Like it's less so for me. It's less so like the interpersonal dynamics between people. And it's more so like the season that we're in currently, which are just the aspects of ministry you can't do without. But they kind of feel gross. Like right now, biggest needs right now is like nickels and noses.
Yeah.
We have to make a budget and we have to grow.
People and pennies.
People and pennies. That's a good one. That's better than nickels and noses. Nah.
A nickel is more.
A nickel. But
and you're in Orlando, so you need nickels.
Bro. That's another thing, man. So the nature and where we're planting, right, is Hunters Creek. Hunters Creek is, the way I like to describe it, is like bougie ghetto.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's next to all the neighborhoods that are neighborhoods. But it's filled with people who were in the hood, got some money,
and then slipped out a little bit.
And slipped out, you know what I mean? And now because they live next to an ale house, it's popping.
I know exactly the ale house you talk about.
It's a very famous ale house.
Yeah, I've been to the ale house quite a few times.
Very famous ale house.
Yeah. Had some, yeah.
Yeah. Zinger Mountain Melts, you know what I mean? And then you can hit the club right behind it.
Exactly.
Burritos,
yep.
You know? But like that's kind of the dynamic that's there.
Yeah.
You know? There's money there, but there also isn't. You know what I mean? And so I live just south of Hunters Creek. Like I live right on the border. So like Osceola Parkway separates Osceola and Orange County. And Hunters Creek is the last annexed neighborhood in Orange County. So it's not even Orlando proper. It's like annexed Orlando. It's like we count this as Orlando for tax purposes.
Right.
You know? But yeah, so that's where we're at. And we felt burdened for that place because planting New City, one of the visions for planting New City was like having a place that was a bridge. If Orlando is automatically a very diverse place, it always has been. Even back before civil rights era, it was very segregated, black and white.
Yeah.
And so it's always been a place where the minority have found its stay.
Right.
Then when you add the Latin experience to that, so right now, Orlando, since Hurricane Maria, before that it was growing in this way already, but since Hurricane Maria, it's exponentially grown this way.
Really?
Where, oh yeah, it is a minority majority city.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
And Hunters Creek, if you look at demographics, like it is hard minority. Like,
would you say, when you say minority, what's the predominant minority
Latin.
in Hunters Creek? Okay. Yeah. I remember the first time I ever saw like growing up in North Carolina, we saw like Mexican people every once in a while. But like when I went to Disney World when I was like 10 years old, and it was like the most Hispanic people I had ever seen at one time. Bro. And it like blew my mind.
Yeah.
But that was always what I correlated with Florida and with Orlando, was like, man, there are a lot of Latin people in Orlando. And as I've been here for like the last 17 years in Central Florida, I've seen that grow even more.
Bro, it's ridiculous. So in Orlando, 1,000 people per day is the current mark, and we've maintained that mark for 2 years straight. Usually you have like a high.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 people a day is like, oh my God, it's an anomaly. It's like, no, Orlando has maintained 1,000 people per day moving to Orlando.
Yeah.
Moving to Central Florida, I would say.
And Orlando is like probably one of the few places where people on the outskirts of Orlando are still moving into Orlando.
Right.
Yeah. So like there are people from Daytona and Deltona and DeLand and like these Lakeland, they're moving closer into the city, which is weird.
They're all coming up. Yeah. And it's crazy. So that's where we live. And, you know, we're starting in our home, and we wanted to be a bridge between denominations. So in Hunters Creek, there's about 7 churches. All of them are in different denominational places, from AG to Baptist to Lutheran, Seventh-day Adventist, things like that. So we wanted to figure out how can we partner with all of them, and not just like stick to our camp. There's racial diversity in Hunters Creek. There's a lot of old white money, but there's a lot of black and brown people moving in, becoming business owners. Like I said, getting up out the hood and slipping into these spaces where now it's a majority place, a minority majority place. But then there's crazy economic disparity, where like you'll drive through. This is one of the things that was like a really popular conversation during the All-Star game when it was here in Orlando.
Okay.
When the All-Star game was here in Orlando, people were upset because the Ritz-Carlton, guess what it faces? The Block.
Yeah.
And so you had a bunch of celebrities coming down to Orlando, and they were heated.
They're like, yo, what am I looking at?
Yeah, they're like, what is my view right now?
Hand to hands all day.
Yeah. It's like nothing but tarps on roofs.
Right.
Freaking hurricanes, insurances ain't.
I never heard that. I hadn't heard that.
It was actually a very big, maybe it was more centralized for people in Orlando, but that was a big topic of discussion, was like the Ritz is like facing the Block.
Yeah.
You know? And that's right on the north side of Hunters Creek.
Right.
The north end of Hunters Creek.
Right.
And so you have like these pockets surrounding with like North Kissimmee and BVL and like all these neighborhoods that don't have really good reputations. And then you have Hunters Creek, which if you like ask around, it's like, oh, you live in Hunters Creek, it's bougie. It's like, yeah, until you move there and then you find out. And then you find out like, it's not really.
It's like everybody's living like day off of Friday after next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
that is accurate.
Yeah, it's like one step up, you know?
Accurate.
It's like, oh man, we moved to Rancho Cucamonga. Like,
yo.
Nah, I get it, man. Yeah. I get it.
So that's where we at. And so it's like, what if we build a place that was a bridge for all of these things? Mm-hmm. What if we built a bridge that celebrated the diversity in all spaces, age, race, economics, education, all of these different places? And how does the gospel interact with these things? How do Christians navigate in these spaces for a way that answers all of the humanity, the plights of humanity that we experience in this world? And so that's kind of what we came in with, burdened for and burdened by. And so now the plan is just trying to figure out ways we can do that, you know? We're establishing a core. We have people who are sold out in the mission and vision, and people who are getting there, you know, and that's another conversation on kind of like difficulties in church planting. Yeah. You know, people, especially when you're focusing missionally on de-church people. But yeah, it's a good gift. It's a gift.
I love it.
That's what we want to do.
I love it, man. We're reaching an hour real quick. This is how our conversations go. Like, they just fly by.
Listen, bro, you're the guy with the schedule.
Well, it's not about the schedule. It's just, you know,
big time.
We try to keep them right at an hour. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a part 2. Because I'd love to hear more about how things are developing over time. I know you're at that core stage, kind of. You have launch in view, but there's still so much that has to happen between now and then. So I'd love for us to get together again to talk about that. But before we do that, this might be the end of our video, but we're still going to have audio. So we'd love for you to check out the audio of the rest of this interview, because me and Justin are just going to kind of shoot it for a little bit and talk about some random stuff. Before we wrap up, though, let them know where they can find you. Let them know where they can give the big check to. What are your parting words, man? How would you wrap it up?
NewCityORL.com is our website. And in there you can find many ways to connect. You can join us in prayer. You can join us as people, being a people on mission for the glory of God, and you could financially join us as well, which, man, we need. Statistically speaking, church plants that have a black or brown leader, they're harder to get off, and we feel that. That's not just something we're standing in and letting the statistics sort of dictate to us what it is. It's something we're actually experiencing. It's hard work in these spaces. And so I would just say, man, if you feel compelled, if you feel led, think of us in prayer. Praying is the best thing you could do for us, honestly. It's not even the money. Praying is the best thing you could do for us. We are people that do not see prayer as no small thing, as long as you promise to truly commit to pray for us and not just say you're going to pray for us. But I would invite that.
I love it. Well, great conversation.
Yeah, man. Love it.
This is one of many.
I hope so.
We could probably just do a podcast together at some point.
Welcome that.
Well, thank y'all for watching. Man, please check out everything that New City is doing. Check out Justin. Follow him wherever you can find him. I would encourage you to support. I encourage you to support all church planting, and every church planter that you see on this podcast is not just a person who I'm friends with or I'm cool with or I enjoy sitting down and talking to, but there are people I truly believe that the Lord is moving in their lives and using them to reach more people for the sake of the gospel. And we are all people that don't have perfect stories, right? So like, I love to sit down. Maybe I wouldn't love to sit down and act like, everything has been good for all of our lives. But I think the experiences we've had have allowed us to see Jesus in such a beautiful way that we are encouraged to be able to move out and have other people see him in that way. And Justin's story kind of reminded me of that. Even some pieces I didn't even know until just now. So continue to follow, continue to stay plugged in, continue to live all of your life in Christ, and continue to tell the story. God bless. I gotta cut it off like this.
I feel you. I was just teasing.